What if Wishiwashi was in Gen 1 OU? Now, what you're going to see today will be a classic example of why just putting big stat Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow doesn't automatically make it OU material. When you look at Wishiwashi's stats, they are insane. And one big thing that Wishiwashi's school farm is going to have here that it wouldn't have in any other generation is the lack of an ability, which means that you don't have to worry about this thing being low HP and then going back into its base form, which is literally so weak. I did a Gen 1 Tenyu video on it. It's just, there's a lot of things going wrong for Wishiwashi, but even despite saying that, it's not like it's useless in OU either. If you wanted to make it work, you could. But you could also make Vaporeon and Gyarados work, so why would you choose Wishiwashi? The stats are some of the best I've covered on this series. The only things I can think of that would be better would be, I don't know, Regigigas, Slaking, and other obvious Ubers Pokemon. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but there's two stats that are a little below average, I guess you can say. Maybe you can't really say that about speed, because Snorlax and Slowbro have your exact same speed stat. So when you put it like that, it's pretty bad, but at the same time, you're probably used to it given just the nature of RBY. But goodness gracious, that HP stat, that is the reason that you're being held back so much. It would have other issues regardless, but 45 HP, base HP is so rough. I cannot underestimate it. If you want to know how bad that is, Seismic Toss is a 3-hit KO. Yeah, it's that bad. To the point where your defenses don't even matter half the time, since set damage is so common in RBY. Alakazam, Chanty, Gengar, maybe even Hypno and some other Pokemon. This thing really struggles to take a hit, and the speed makes it even worse, because now you're super slow, you're forced to take hits, which means you're forced to go for rest, but guess what? You have low base HP, so things can very easily take advantage of you when you're resting. It's just overall, it's really hard to get around. The only thing you can do is just save it for the late game when everything's paralyzed. And when that happens, yeah, this thing is pretty busted. Hydro Pump, which by the way, I did Hydro Pump because I thought it would be better, but according to my council member Sotina, I'm pretty sure both Hydro Pump and Surf are around similar damage ranges anyway, so just go for Surf. But Surf and Earthquake are already pretty powerful combo. In fact, one niche that Wishiwashi here has over other water types like Stormmy, Gyarados, Vaporeon, Lapras, etc. is because it has Earthquake. Because Gyarados didn't get Earthquake in RBY. So being a mixed attacker with ground and water coverage, that's actually pretty good. This thing can actually hit electric types super effectively. Both Earthquake for Jolion, or Ice Beam for Zapdos. And yes, I did say Ice Beam, not Blizzard. If you try looking, you will see there is no Blizzard, and there is no Hyper Beam. Which, this is the case for a lot of Gen 7 Pokemon. They just don't get Hyper Beam, which I would argue makes videos for them more interesting, but it also definitely hurts them so much. It's actually part of the reason why, if you do any tournaments in my server, we go with Natdex move pools. Doesn't mean that we add full-on modern movesets, but if a Pokemon, for example, learns an RBY move, but not in its debut generation, we just go with Natdex. And again, like probably Wishiwashi or Kawaii are good examples. Or Luxray. Because Luxray doesn't have Body Slam in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum. But it gets it at some point, I think in Scarlet and Violet or something. But that's getting a little off topic. I think now we get the strengths and the strengths and weaknesses of Wishiwashi. High stats, hits pretty hard, physically and specially, low speed, and low HP. Meaning that it can tank a lot of hits. I would say the majority of things it's tanking are probably going to be 3-hit KOs. And it can hit back in return. But that's pretty much it. It almost always loses the war of attrition. And I'm not even sure if healing would help here. Granted, I'm not even sure what healing move you'd even give it. Let's just say hypothetically it had recover. It would probably do better, but even then, you can probably prey on it with psychic special drops or paralysis. So I don't know. I will say though, I do think it's definitely fine in underuse. Like I said, Earthquake gives it a genuine niche against the other underused Pokemon. Your stats are quite frankly insane compared to the others. And even though there's other bulky water types, unless they're like Lapras with Thunderbolt, I think they probably hate facing you more than you hate facing them. With the exception being Vaporeon maybe. But I also think that with fast electric types, and with, like, I don't know, like, Pokemon like, you know, Hypno with Seismic Toss, it's probably fine. But that is it for now. I think we should get on to the replays. Starting off with the boy himself, we got Tauros. And this is one of your better matchups, but the reason for that is 100% because Tauros, you know, is a really big Pokemon. One that you should probably consider when beating, you know, the opponent. And it doesn't have a recovery, and it's also super valuable. So Wishiwashi having the bulk and the power to take it on pretty quickly, yeah, that's very good. Granted, with crits, Tauros can very easily take advantage of your low base HP stat. But at the same time, you're just far too bulky and you hit way too hard. I seriously doubt that Tauros risks fighting you unless it has to. Because it will take a lot of damage no matter what. Meanwhile, for Snorlax, as you can see there, Hydro Pump is not even a 2-hit KO. And if you're using an optimal set, you're probably using Surf instead of Hydro Pump, so it's even worse. Snorlax speed ties you, but all of that changes the moment it gets a paralysis off Body Slam. This is a pretty bad matchup, and that one I would consider could go either way. Snorlax, it's just too tanky. And you have bulk too, but it's just not enough. So that's it for Snorlax. And surely, with the other 30-speed Pokemon, it will do good against Slowbro, right? I guess we'll find out later, unless you have a brain and you already know. But here we have Chanty. And to my surprise, Seismic Toss and Thunderbolt are basically the same. Both are a 3-hit KO. So, really, it doesn't matter what Chanty set you're using, unless it's Mono Ice. But from what my council member Satina told me, I'm pretty sure Mono Ice Beam Chanty isn't even that common anymore. So pretty much any Chanty set can just beat you, straight up. So that's a little embarrassing. Speaking of embarrassing, imagine a strong, bulky, physical attacker that fears Zam. But that's pretty much what we have here. Psychic and Seismic Toss both are plenty scary. And since you have 30 speed, meaning you have a bad crit rate, Zam can very easily just paralyze you and keep going for a cover until you don't move anymore, and then going for a Seismic Toss whenever it's safe. So yeah, you are not beating that whatsoever. You're probably not beating Cloyster either. Or I don't know, this one's kind of weird. You're technically hitting it for neutral, but because of Cloyster's high defense, ironically, it's better to go for just your special moves. And I guess with Surf and Hydro Pump, you do better. But at the same time, Cloyster outspeeds you with Clamp. So yeah, this is not in your favor. Really not in your favor. Although it's another case where, honestly, I think I have a lot of videos where a lot of water Pokemon just end up having to use water moves against Cloyster as its most optimal move. Kinda weird. But now we have Exeutor. And it's only annoying enough that you don't have Blizzard. Actually, no, I think it's actually super annoying, because look at that damage range. Blizzard would probably be a 2-hit KO. Oh yeah, Mega Drain Executor is now more common, so that just makes it even more bad for you. Because not only is it doing good damage, but it's also healing. That's not good. I guess if you want to be generous, we can say Gengar's could go either way. To my surprise, you can actually survive a critical Thunderbolt, so maybe this is kind of winnable? Weird to think about. And now we have Jolteon. And it can survive Earthquake. But would you even get to that point? Unless you're like Zack and Theus with your Swellow using Amnesia, who here is actually going to risk the crit against Thunderbolt? Only the bold and the dead, I'd say. And now we have Jinx, which you resist Blizzard, I guess that's fine. You technically do have all of the advantages of a bulky mono water type, but you take a lot of damage. But I guess Jinx is still one of your better matchups, so I guess we should try to be more optimistic about it. But Rhydon's a little bit better. Although, it's really embarrassing that it's faster. Not just faster, but it can also do a third with Earthquake. The fact that a paralyzed Wishiwashi sometimes needs to kind of respect Rhydon, that is just embarrassing. But now we have Slowbro, the one I talked about earlier. Now, what do you think is going to happen, chat? I guess we could talk about how Hydro Pump did more than I thought, but again, you're probably using Surf instead. So is that better than Earthquake? Probably. Another thing I'm kind of curious about is Body Slam. I'm pretty sure it doesn't get Body Slam in its original generation. Because normally, if it doesn't get Hyper Beam, it also doesn't get Body Slam. But if it did get a Body Slam, would you use that over Rest? I'm honestly kind of thinking so. Because with Wishiwashi's low HP, you might be better off just accepting that this thing isn't going to take too many hits. So having a chance to get a Pokemon paralyzed, meaning you're finally faster, I don't know, I kind of feel like that has more merit. It would come up more in battles. Although sometimes it just doesn't matter. Against Stormmy, I guess if it's Blizzard, or even if it's Blizzard Surf, Stormmy probably wins the War of Attrition with Recover and Crit Fishing. Although, it does kind of sound like hell. It doesn't matter, just don't use Blizzard Surf and you basically win every single time. Speaking of winning every single time, well, Vicky Bell. Oh, that's awkward. Man, I couldn't even beat Wishiwashi. Sucks to be him. But I guess for the tier list, we'll put this in bad and potentially unwinnable, since it's only really a 10% chance to actually lose that fight. But here's Zapdos, and this is gonna... It's not gonna be pretty. Granted, Ice Beam does about a third, and I guess if you get a freeze here... Okay, maybe I'm not allowed to dish on... Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. Notice how in the damage range, Hydro Pump did more than Ice Beam? That's kind of cool. But not a big deal. Yeah, here I was just trashing on Vicky Bell, and then Zapdos gets frozen too. I guess we'll put both of them in great matchups, since Wishiwashi obviously would get the freeze. Now, normally, this is when I end the video, but considering this is a Patreon I cannot talk. Considering this is a Patreon request from my Patreon supporter Plausible, we have 4 more replays to go over. These are all going to be, 3 of them are replays that Plaus himself suggested, and 1 that I thought would be pretty interesting. Now, this next one's going to be pretty short, because it's going to be against Vaporeon. I'm going to be real, I started doing this replay, I saw how little both were doing to each other, so this might be the first time I ever did this. I straight up just kind of quit. Like, I did some attacks, and even with Wishiwashi not moving at all, Vaporeon isn't doing any damage, and Earthquake is doing not enough damage to where you can put Vaporeon in range with the rest. So I realized very quickly, oh wait, if I stay here, these are going to be resting against each other for like forever, basically. So you only have to try to go for freeze, which, yeah, I was not sitting through that. But luckily, these other replays are pretty interesting. Now, Hypno, like I said, Seismic Toss is a 3-hit KO. So I think this replay, out of any of the others, just really demonstrates just how much suffering. And also with Hydro Pump there. Hydro Pump, it's its most powerful move it can use. And that's not even enough to 2-shot Hypno. So in some ways, you could even say that it's kind of lacking in power. Although, so not to a major degree. For the most part, it's fine. It's just, with how low its base HP is, yeah, you kind of wish you had, like, better, or what would you even want? I guess Blizzard is obvious in Hyper Beam. Okay, never mind, yeah, there's definitely some things you'd rather have. Now, this replay is hilarious. Boss didn't ask for Seeking, but I thought it would be nice. And Seeking here already tanks Earthquake pretty well, and in this replay, it got 3 critical hits in a row. He is a madman. So maybe I should use Seeking in more videos. Because if it's going to crit more like this, then what reason do I have not to use it? Alright, last but not least, this is probably the most interesting one. And it is with Ditto. Because Ditto is faster than Wishiwashi. But more importantly, Ditto keeps the same base HP and crit rate. So instead of 45 base HP, it has 48, I believe. And instead of, or it doesn't matter now, but with 48 speed, it's not great, but it technically has a better crit rate than the normal Wishiwashi. Despite that, however, since you need a turn to actually transform, even though you have more HP, it's just not enough. You end up having to play a game of catch-up where you're always having to go for rest, and the Wishiwashi is just free to attack you. So you can try rest by going at a rest off, but it probably isn't going to work out for you. But hey, I never thought I'd actually put Ditto on one of these, but here we go. And anyways, here's the tier list. And some things you can definitely change, but as you can tell with the unreasonable amount of Pokemon and unwinnable, this thing would not be enough to be OU caliber proper. But you can definitely use it on certain teams, and under the right hands, and by right hands I mean paralysis support, you can maybe make it work, but I would use the other water types in RBY first. And not just talking about Slowbro and Stormmy and Cloyster. I mean any other water type that has a niche, such as Kingler, I would use it over Wishiwashi. But still, it was interesting. But what do you think? Do you think Wishiwashi would be OU? More importantly, do you think it'd be fine and underused? Or do you think it would struggle or potentially even get banned? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, this is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.